everything that you should know about intermittent fasting, right? The big hot trend of you don't eat till you're starving and then finally devour everything in sight. Is this the diet that you should be on? Does it have a lot of benefits? Well, let me explain to you the nuts and bolts of what it does, how it really does work, and maybe who it doesn't work for. If you don't know who I am, my name is Mike Over, and I've been in the fitness industry for 16 years, owned a gym, and I've definitely been there, done that, tried this, seen that, and love giving you guys, especially those that watch my stuff, great content and valuable information. I've been featured in places like Men's Health, T Nation, Elite Fitness, even on ABC News, and I love just sharing knowledge. So let's talk about fasting, right? Because we've all been there wanting to learn. Now, if you don't know what fasting is, it's restricting your time of eating from a certain window. So more so than not, most people are in that 16-hour fast phase where they do 16 hours of not eating, then they have an 8-hour window where they do eat. So that could be something where you extend, maybe your window is from noon, 12, till 8 p.m. at night. Those are the only hours that you set available for yourself to eat. Some people can do extended fast where they go anywhere from access of 24 to 48 to 72 hours. Sometimes you can even go into a day fast. Well, the thing is, every fast has benefits, every one has drawbacks, and even different types of fasting, because let's be real, you can do TV fasting, you can do social media scrolling fasting, you could do water fasting, you could do electrolyte fasting, you could do any type of fasting that is really trying to prevent you from doing something that either might be creating a bad habit or that might be something in your daily routine. So let's talk about this, because there is clinical data and research behind this really helping with rheumatic illnesses, so things that involve muscle, bone, and joints. It can help this because what it will do is help with a few different things, whether it's helping with fatty acid increase, it can help with reducing inflammation, it can help with increasing glucagon and even growth hormone production. It can help with increasing cortisol, which can be good but also be bad. And it actually can even help with stabilizing blood sugars. So fasting does have many benefits. Even as people get into more keto fasting, where you're trying to really oxidize more fat as fuel, this can be something that is implemented along with fasting to help really stabilize those that are pre-diabetic or diabetic with blood sugar management. And the big thing about this is that the research behind fasting is clinically clear that it does help with more so individuals that deal with problems revolving around insulin and blood sugar management. So those of you dealing with even things that can go from joint pain, arthritis, blood sugar management, and even helping with controlling what? Fatigue. Because some of you might notice that if you've got low cortisol, your body, which cortisol is the stress hormone, right? When you go into a state of not eating, it will inevitably raise cortisol up, which will give you that immediate sense of energy. This helps those that struggle with dopamine, norepinephrine, and adrenaline issues, but at the end of the day, it also can come with a negative feedback loop. So you do have to be careful. So that's why I want to now talk about what should you be looking for in labs, or how do you know someone is good fit for intermittent fasting? That's a great question. So I often will say that those of you that are on certain medications revolving around blood sugar management, like metformin, might want to be checking with your primary care first. That's something to consider. Also, it would be very wise to check if you're on a lot of NSAIDs or those types of drugs that help with reducing inflammation. I then also be wary of those of you that are on blood pressure medications and even corticosteroids or contraceptives. These things are all very important to make sure you know, because when I'm looking at individuals that are being set for intermittent fasting, those are some thoughts, along with making sure I have quality lab data. What does that mean? Well, I'll be looking at definitely your CBCs, right? Your blood cell panel, your metabolic panel, that's definitely important. Your thyroid production's huge, right? So what and how are your adrenals already working? That's another huge factor in trying to figure that out if you would be a good fit. Also knowing where your sex hormones lie, because having someone go into fasting when their sex hormones are already down and in the tanks is going to be very not fun, because it's not going to improve them very much. So you want to have strong sex hormone health. You want to have strong thyroid health. You want to have a strong basic metabolic panel. You want to have really good, strong indicators of an overall wellness when it comes to basic things that revolve around inflammation. So if you do have high CRP levels, this could be something that does help, but it wouldn't have me say you shouldn't do fasting if you've got high inflammation. So now that we know what it is, what it does, who fits the bill for it, now let's talk a little bit about some positives and drawbacks. So now that we know that fasting and what it is, it can help, right? So in general, a lot of people in the busy world struggle with having to think about food all the time, prepping all the time. I mean, the days that I've got my kids, sometimes I'm feeling like I'm literally all I'm thinking about is food all day. So the fasting can really help with reducing stress when it comes to meal prep and thinking about food. That's a positive for those that might have eating disorders or poor relationships with food, right? So if you're one that struggles with that balance, then restricting the times of when you can eat can help take that thought process away. And guess what? Creating a habit that has you not stressing about it. So that's a positive when it comes to those that are more in the worry of meal prep ideas and also obsessing about food. Also, another great positive is that it's very hard to overdo damage for those of you that are stuck and wanting to lose weight, because when you're restricting the time from you eat, it's hard to get enough calories in you then. So if you've got 8 hours to eat, it's very hard to probably get that 2,000 to 3,000 calories. And if you are, you're probably not making the smart choices. So as long as you do fast and you have the right foods in your body, it's going to be difficult because you can only eat so much fiber, sweet potatoes, chicken, and rice, right? So at the end of the day, when you're trying to lose weight, it can be an effective tool for that. And that's where I'm going to say this again, a tool, right? So those of you that live off fasting, it's not a way of life. It's a tool to use to help you reach certain pinpoints in your lifestyle to help your body. Now, let's talk also about other things that can help. And it's like we said, blood sugar management. Those of you that struggle with skyrocketing blood sugars all day can help with kind of stabilizing them, lowering them, and helping them stay more balanced throughout the day. Now, the biggest thing that I will say is that, yes, it's going to be very helpful for those of you trying to lose weight. But now let's take a flip side at some of the drawbacks of some of this fasting hype. So we all know that, great, it does bring up cortisol. But what it does do long term is begin to overextend that cortisol production. When that happens, your adrenals start being taxed all the time. So cortisol, cortisol, cortisol all the time, when it's supposed to be like I see a bear, I run, right? Like cortisol is that quick thing, not something that you want to have consistently happening all the time. So that's where when people abuse this fasting, that's where then cortisol will then turn into a great and then bad thing, where it then just takes those adrenals and tanks them. So then the energy becomes non-existent and very difficult to get it back up. So you got to be careful with that, because the drawback is cutting out calories, going too low carb, also not eating enough will make this worse. So in the short term, not bad. Long term, it's probably not good for you, which is why when I'm looking at someone that's going to go into a fasting program, I'm going to not just look at the current, but what they were doing in the previous 6, 12, even 2 years ago of their diet history. That's a good sign as to how well they will come out of a successful program that incorporates fasting into it. So now that we know this and some of the drawbacks, we also have to appreciate the fact that while yes, you do have a smaller window, it can lead to a lot of mass consumption of overeating and indigestion. So if you're one that struggles with acid reflux and digestion and bloating and gut health, you're also then going to put yourself at a big disadvantage by having to digest larger food quantities at more time. So that is also something to think about. If you're one that doesn't do well with larger meals, you might not do better with fasting. So we got the positives, we got the negatives. We got who's it good for. We got what it is. So at the end of the day, what I will say is that if you're trying to build muscle, fasting may not be the best thing for you, because when we are in a state called mTOR, it's going to help increase mitochondrial production. That's going to help growth hormone release and really get your body into a state of muscle growth and repair. This state is very difficult to get into while fasting. So I say, if you're trying to build muscle, fasting would be like you riding a bike across the country when you can fly. It's much more efficient to just fuel with some carbohydrates and fuel more effectively throughout the day. Now, if you're one trying to lose weight, then yeah, maybe fasting can be a tool that's implemented for you. And I hope that that makes sense to you, because this is not something that's a style of eating that is permanent, something that can be used to help you reach certain levels and help you maybe have a little bit less stress when having to think so much about food. So that's it. And my suggestions are, if you're going to choose to do fasting, that you stick to a good, strong nutritional diet high in fiber, and also that you are supporting yourself with a lot of quality electrolytes throughout the day. Because the last thing you want to do is cut out a lot of timing throughout your day of eating, but then not give yourself the nutritional micronutrients, whether it's sodium and potassium, maybe vitamin C. I even love loading up on glutathione when I go into fasting protocols to help increase antioxidant capacity, because glutathione will be depleted naturally from your body with higher stress, and with cutting out times of eating, and most likely most people are cutting calories, that can happen as well. So hopefully that gives you a good rundown on intermittent fasting, who it's for, what it works with, and if you should start it. And at the end of the day, if you have questions, I really encourage you to join my free community where I answer a lot of these things and help you reach that goal personally. So I hope that helps. God bless. And Fasting 101.